All right, Patrick Osborne mentioned this off the top of the show, but the Longhorns have added another football player right here during spring. And as the transfer portal never ends, and the Longhorns are looking, I'm assuming, Jack, looking at their team, what's there, what's coming in the summer, and saying, we're pretty thin here. What can we do? This is pretty much our unit. And so yesterday, the Longhorns landed Michigan State transfer linebacker Darius Snow following his visit to the 40 acres this past week. And, okay, but as On Texas Football reported it, the rising seventh-year linebacker. This is why I think a lot of people are pushing for 5 years to play 5, Jack. But this kid was recruited during the COVID year. So we think these COVID years are at some level going away, but he was part of the class of 2020 coming out of high school.
It's a long time ago now.
He's 24. He will be 25 at Christmas time, and he's going to play for the Longhorns. We said this earlier, but Bijan Robinson was in that class. Bijan Robinson will enter his 4th year in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons. He's an all-pro. This young guy is going to be playing his 7th year of college, 5th year of college football, but 7th year in college. He's got to be like, what is he getting his PhD?
It's not a bad system for him.
Yeah. He is the second player Texas has added this offseason from that COVID recruiting class. Sterling Burkhalter, the wide receiver that Sark has talked about, liking a lot. He transferred in from Wake Forest earlier this spring. So those are the two elder statesmen. Now, the stated goal this offseason was, you heard Chris Del Conte say it, you heard Steve Sarkisian say it, and what did CDC say? Indiana won the national championship last year. Their average age of their team, including Fernando Mendoza, was 23 and a half, almost 24 years old. Average age. They were very old. Texas's average age of their team last year, that went 10-3 and won the Citrus Bowl, but lost 3 games, 19 and a half. So literally, you're 4 years younger than the team that was the best team. At that age and that development cycle, that matters. It really does. It's become an older game. We just saw it with Michigan in the Final Four in basketball. It's an older sport now, where teams. What was the stat last year, Jack? That Indiana's Michigan's, who won the national championship 2 years ago in basketball? That was
Florida.
Auburn. Remember, Auburn was there, and then Florida was there. Older than the Oklahoma City Thunder as far as average age of starting 5. So here's where we are. We know we're here, but here Texas is going there to get older. They've got a bunch of young guys they like. They got a bunch of third-year stars like Arch Manning and Colin Simmons and those type of guys that are still just 20 years old, but they're adding veteran players to it. I will say, if you hear the name Eric Snow and Snow from Michigan State, or Darius Snow, he is of the Snow lineage of Michigan State. I had to go look this up. The 6'1", 230-pound Snow, his father was the Michigan State basketball star, 14-year NBA veteran Eric Snow. You probably remember him.
Yeah, the Sixers.
And his uncle was one of the best football players in the history of the Michigan State program, Percy Snow. When I was in high school, he was a hell of a football player at Michigan State. Matter of fact, Percy Snow was the first college football player ever, Jack, to win the Butkus Award and the Lombardi Award in the same year. And then he was drafted 13th overall into the NFL, played in the NFL. So, yes, he is of that lineage, which is of note. So he is the third Longhorn that they've added during the spring. Now, he won't be here till summertime. He'll enroll. He'll be part of the team in the fall. Just so you're key, because you're going to look at this roster. You're like, who is that guy? Darius Snow. Where did he come from? They've also added an SMU transfer offensive lineman and an edge rusher during the spring. That's what general manager Brandon Harris is over there doing while they're running spring practice and making things happen. Jack, will you plan, if the weather is right, to get down to the spring event or no?
No, probably not.
If the weather's good, I'm going.
You going?
Well, yes. It's the only football of the spring. I'm not going to any, UFL games or whatever.
Hey, those are on.
No, I'm not doing Sundays. That. No, I'm going. Now, because
I'm getting to the dish, right?
Do both.
Yeah. Pop over.
Because what I'm hoping is this weather hangs out so the rains don't come till later in the day, later in the afternoon, so that you could do the morning thing. And I don't know, it's just cool to be down there at the stadium. What else are you going to do? Unless you have tickets to the Two-Steppin' Fest or something else going on in Central Texas this weekend. I think I'm going to try to get down there and check it out and see what goes on. But let's hear from some. So yesterday they had more coaches and players available to preview the upcoming season, including Kyle Flood. Kyle Flood was available, the offensive coordinator. Remember, we heard from Will Muschamp Last year, here is Kyle Flood, a little bit of overview about how the spring has gone for the offense. He is technically the offensive coordinator under Steve Sarkisian.
That has been really productive for us on offense. I think it's been a great opportunity in a lot of ways. And that's kind of how I've looked at this. We've got obviously some established players that have been limited. Art's been limited, Trevor's been limited, Ryan's been limited, but it's given unbelievable opportunity to guys. That has been really productive for us on offense.
All right, so he went on to talk about how it's been a great opportunity for some of the young guys to get reps, including at the quarterback position, which we know Arch has been out there, but not going full bore. Let's hear, speaking of those young guys, A.J. Milwee was asked, because there's been a lot of buzz about Dia Bell, future quarterback at Texas, most likely. When Arch moves on, someone's going to be the next guy in line. Is that K.J. Lacey? Is that Dia Bell? Speaking of NBA fathers, Rajah Bell's son, here is A.J. Milwee, the quarterback's coach.
But to have that kind of mental maturity at this point, to be able to go 14 practices in, and I haven't really felt like he's hit that freshman wall yet, where a lot of guys will get to practice 8, and it's like, this has been going on for a while now. I really haven't felt that with him yet, so that's really positive.
All right, so Dia Bell, that's going to be an interesting conversation with the backup quarterback and how that shakes out. Now, meanwhile, obviously A.J. Milwee is the quarterback's coach and is close as anybody to Arch Manning, along with Mike Bumonte. They work in that offensive room. Here's A.J. Milwee with what he's seeing from Arch as he continues to mature.
The communication that he has with whether it's myself, Sark, Coach Bumonte, just the amount of interaction that you have with him, he's not going home and watching TV shows all night. He's not on Netflix all night. He's watching and he's preparing, and whatever the next day is, third down, ready, he's watching that, and he has answers and questions when he comes in the next day.
Jack Farrell, we heard from Arch Manning yesterday and played some of his audio from his availability. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you hear from A.J. Milwee saying this guy, it's all he does is football. It really is. And he's been a little antsy this spring because he hadn't been able to participate fully, which is rare for him. But there he is saying he goes home and watches. He don't watch TV shows like you and I do. He watching football and film. This was what his Uncle Peyton was known for, just being an absolute
grinding it out
grinder with football. And it's all football all the time. That's a good thing when you're as talented as that guy. What do they always say? When your best players are your hardest workers, good things can happen. Feels like whether I've heard about Colin Simmons or Arch Manning, those are probably the two best players on either side of the ball. That's a pretty good thing, because those guys are going to hold everybody else to a pretty high expectation. Because if Arch is doing it that way, we see that all over. Tim Duncan down with the Spurs when that guy was grinding, and Tom Brady with the Patriots, and those
Set
are the greats
example,
of them,
right?
Yeah, well, and especially when a coach can rip them. I mean, that was always one of the things with Duncan and Tom Brady that Belichick and Pop felt like they could really coach those guys, and they'd accept it, and that worked through the whole team. It set the example without a doubt. So Arch Manning getting reviews and rave reviews from his head coach. Also, how about Chris Jackson's the wide receivers coach? Talking about Cam Coleman coming in to join Ryan Wingo, to join Emmett Mosley, and a very deep and talented wide receiver room that Sark has said is the most talented he's had at Texas. As far as the overall talent level at that spot, Arch Manning's favorite targets. Here's Chris Jackson talking about Cam Coleman.
Catch frame, being able to snap off slant routes and that beats people on 50-50 catches, and how strong he just runs. That's the biggest thing that stands out. And it's now that we get him, now we're going to polish him to all aspects of all routes. He would run all bona fide NFL routes here. There will be no weakness to his game when all's said and done.
There you go. There will be no weakness to his game when all is said and done. Some have suggested Cam Coleman is the most talented receiver at Texas since Roy Williams. And I've heard, we've had Quan Cosby on the show, who's a pretty damn talented receiver at Texas, a national champion, and he said, yeah, I would agree with that, because he's been out to practices. There's not been a more, just toolbox of talent. There's been good players, really good players, but to combine the size-speed combo,
right?
As you just heard Chris Jackson say, the ability to go up and moss people, and 50-50 balls become 80-20 balls. But as they, refine his route running and his ability to get off things and shed, big and fast, big and athletic, becomes a real problem. And that's since Roy Williams, they haven't had that package.
That's the thing is, we've had a lot of talented receivers down in the 40, but it's like Cam Coleman is as big as little Jordan Humphrey, but he's also as fast as, I'm not Xavier Worthy, but he's got some speed, right? He's got the possession ability, and now it's just about if he can get the timing down and the crisp, route running down, I think he's going to be an animal.
I love it. I've heard, I did a show with Rod Babers for a while, good colleague of mine, good friend over at On Texas Football. Rod is a corner at DBU, and he said, as a corner, I can have a plan for a guy that's smaller and quick.
Right.
I can have a plan. You mentioned Lil Jordan Humphrey or Colin Simmons. I can have a plan for a bigger guy, too. I'm a littler guy. I got to learn to box out, but I can't. There's no plan for both.
Size and speed.
I can't. There is no plan. I'm guessing all the time. And I'm at the disadvantage in everything. If he's as quick and as fast as I am out of our breaks.
And it's an inherently reactive position. And it's hard to react to
right.
that.
Well, because, as he said, the plan, I can guess the route. I can guess the things. I can take away some things from him. If it's a smaller guy that's quick, I can be physical with him. If it's a bigger guy, I can lay off, but no, I got to box out with him. There is really no plan for big and fat. That's why those guys are, like Jeremiah Smith and those type of guys, Cam Coleman potentially, and they're a real problem. And the Longhorns have a good problem with those receivers. So there you go, little offense. We'll see what we see tomorrow with the spring game, the open practice. Sark said earlier this week, if you are planning to attend, if the weather does cooperate tomorrow, you're looking at about 60, 70 plays. There will be some good on good. You won't see Arch Manning out there flinging the ball around. You'll see Diabell. You'll see KJ Lacey and the other quarterbacks. But there will be about 60, 70 plays of live action tomorrow. And obviously we'll get to talk about what we see, what comes from it on Monday. I believe the Texas A&M's having their spring game tomorrow too, Jack, down in College Station. There's several. LSU is having their spring game tomorrow. So we come in on Monday. There'll be a lot, I would imagine, of college football to discuss as far as let's just hope there's no injuries to discuss. That's the one thing you don't want in a spring game. You're to the end. There has not been a significant injury. One other piece of audio to wrap up our Horns at Half Past here at the bottom of the first hour. Kyle Flood was asked about, because everybody asked about the offensive line. What about the offensive line? We know the Longhorns have 3 returning starters where they think they'll be even better with, Trevor Goosby's improved at left tackle. Moving Brandon Baker to right guard, and then Connor Robertson at center. But they've added Melvin Sinai from Wake Forest, and then Lawrence Seymour is the transfer, speaking of older players, coming in for a 6th year of college football. We got a medical waiver, and the NCAA approved it. He's coming from Western Kentucky, where he was a second-team All-American, according to Phil Steele and the College Football Writers Association. Second-team All-American with the Hilltoppers. Here's Kyle Flood. Doesn't know a lot, but has communicated with his potential starting left guard.
Yeah, really not allowed to do a lot. Until he's enrolled, you really can't do much. We can do kind of some Zoom meetings like we would do with the freshmen coming in. And Lawrence has played a lot of football, and we're excited to get him here and let him compete. And ultimately find the best 5 guys. That's the most important thing to me, and I think it's my responsibility to Coach Sarkisian and the offense is to make sure we try to find the best 5 guys and put them on the field.
All right, and that right now projects as Sinai at right tackle, Brandon Baker, Connor Robertson, Lawrence Seymour, and then Trevor Goosby at left tackle, which should be an improved offensive line. And that is the question. If Texas is going to have a weakness, it was the issue last year. But I think youth and offensive line and lack of. We heard Arch say it about his offensive weaponry. He said yesterday or earlier this week on Wednesday, we have a lot of guys that can score from a long way out. They didn't have that last year.
No.
They didn't have a lot of guys that could score from a long way out. This year, they are projecting to have Cam Coleman. Ryan Wingo was one of the guys that could score from a long way out last year, and he did. But then Raleek Brown, Hollywood Smothers, Trey Wisner was a grinder at running back, but not a big play waiting to happen all the time.
And
these guys
didn't
have
that breakaway speed.
Yeah.
You'd see him get tracked down in the open field. It was pretty much just Ryan Wingo and.
Well, and we now know after watching him develop last year, Arch Manning is a guy who can score from a long way out. He hits your quarterback position.
Now you have multiple running backs. You got a couple different receivers that can do it for you. We know Ryan Wingo can.
And if you
pretty
get
sure
this
Cam
offensive
Coleman
line upgraded, they should be pretty dynamic on that side of the ball.